huge. That is a
Good evening and welcome to Game On. My name is Mahreen Chenya. What a day it has been in the newsroom. Of course, discussing what is happening and unraveling at the FIFA headquarters. You can tweet me at Mahreen_Chenya or the channel at ANN7TV. I'm sure you all have an opinion about what's been going on. Of course, this matter has been trending on Twitter since this morning. Now let's have a look at your headlines. Top FIFA officials arrested in Switzerland. Blatter and Falk are not invited. Gregorio claims this is good for a cleanup for FIFA. And we talk girl power with two female forces in South African sport. Well, Swiss police arrested 7 FIFA officials early on Wednesday morning as Swiss and US authorities unveiled separate sweeping probes of alleged corruption spanning more than 2 decades at the world's top governing body of football. Some of the names include Jack Warner, who allegedly took bribes of $10 million for the bid of the 2010 World Cup held right here in South Africa.
The US Justice Department on Wednesday said it had charged 9 current and former FIFA officials and 5 others on broad corruption charges, accusing them of various schemes over 24 years to enrich themselves through FIFA. In a sweeping 161-page indictment that lists 25 co-conspirators in addition to the 14 named defendants, prosecutors describe a wide-ranging scheme that spanned decades and involved increasingly large payments as football grew more commercially valuable in South America and the United States. The indictment also alleges that in the beginning of the early 90s, President of the South American Confederation, Nicolas Leos, began soliciting bribe payments to renew commercial contracts which were funneled through offshore corporations that held accounts at the U.S. financial institutions. Eugenio Figueiredo and Rafael Esquivel are also involved. American authorities also charged Jeffrey Webb, the head of CONCACAF and a FIFA vice president, in the indictment, saying an intermediary negotiated a bribe payment on Webb's behalf that led to the awarding of the 2013 Gold Cup rights. ANN7 Sports Desk.
Joining me now in studio to chat about this issue a little bit more and in depth is a former president of the South African Football Association, Kirsten Nematandani. Mr. Nematandani, thank you very much for speaking to us here on Game On this evening. Are you surprised that these allegations have come for FIFA and members have been arrested?
Thank you very much to you and to your viewers. I must say, look, I think FIFA started with their reforms processes back in 2011, if I remember, where they set up the ethics committee and other committees related to issues of corruption. And I think it went on. And of course, at the same time, the processes were on in terms of the authorities, Interpol, the FBI, and rumors were running. And of course, this is the culmination of it, I suppose, in the sense that indeed the investigation seemed to have something substantive that they believe now they need to make an arrest and go and prosecute.
Is football a dirty business?
Look, I think football is a wonderful sport, obviously. Wherever, because it's a great game, it's a game of billions, and whenever money is involved, surely a lot of things do happen. But the truth of it is it's a wonderful sport accessible to anyone. It makes no difference whether you're rich or poor, whether you stay in the slums or in the cities. It is just one of the greatest games. It's actually called the second religion.
I certainly think that, and it's quite unfortunate that this has now taken the headlines. I just want to have a look at De Gregorio. He obviously held a press conference earlier today from the FIFA headquarters talking about some of the issues, addressing the media. Let's have a look at what he had to say about how good this is for FIFA.
This for FIFA is good. It's not good in terms of image. It's not good in terms of reputation, but in terms of cleaning up, in terms of everything what we did in the last 4 years, in terms of the reform process, this is good. We wouldn't have any interest to give the files to the General Attorney the 18th of November if we would not have known that the consequences are exactly what we're doing here.
Do you think all these allegations are true?
Well, look, I think there's no smoke without fire.
Absolutely.
And I assume that the investigators probably have something substantive there to talk about. But the truth of it is, yes, this was very important for football because that will give football that positive image going forward. Surely for now, it does look like a crisis, but to me, it's part of the reform processes. And I know FIFA had gathered a lot of information at the time, and obviously those information were to be sent to the right authority. Remember, they also have their investigation wing. And surely the authorities had to also tap into that in the interest of the game. And no wonder why they are all agreeing that this was necessary. This will now begin to affirm the sport going forward.
The BBC is alleging that Jack Warner was offered $10 million by the South African government to vote for South Africa to host that FIFA World Cup in 2010. What is your comment on that?
Look, I think I'm happy that you're mentioning that is an allegation that's being said, and obviously allegation is bound, is expected to be investigated further, and surely what we know is our bid was one of the best bids. As you know, we were only competing with Morocco at the time, and going back to the 2006 where we were competing with the rest of the world, you know how close we were had it not been because of the Charles Dempsey matter. Surely we would have gone through again to him we say may his soul rest in peace.
In your previous statement, you said where there's smoke, there's fire. Could this be the same case?
Look, I think investigation is investigation. I assume my understanding from what I heard is the statement says the investigating all FIFA bids going back to 1991. And surely it would have been wrong to isolate certain bids and not look into them. And let's give them a chance, and of course the truth will come out.
Of course, you're still waiting for FIFA to clear your name, and the South African Football Association, of course, with those allegations of match fixing before the 2010 World Cup, or Bafana Bafana matches. Have you heard anything in this regard?
Unfortunately, no. I'm still waiting anxiously. Of course, this is about my reputation. I only have one name, and that name means everything to me, and I'll wait for the time.
Of course, Jerome Falk came to the country a little while ago, and you said that you will be addressing this matter. Do you find that South Africa's name in football has now been tainted by, of course, those match-fixing allegations, and now this, possibly the government offering Jack Warner $10 million?
Look, I think going back to the match-fixing scandal, which implicates me, I believe the truth will come out. That's why I'm adamant to say that has to continue, because my name has to be clear. And surely it is an unfortunate setup that our name is thrown in terms of the investigation per se. But what I know is, in as far as our bid is concerned, there was no doubt that we would be tops because we were competing within the African continent. And in terms of the preparation, we had a bid that could have made it back in 2006. What more in 2010, having gone through the same experience? Of course, our government supported us because that's one of the conditions that FIFA raised, that you have to have government support. And of course, government has spent a lot of money. I'm not so sure whether that is part of what they are referring to in form of infrastructure and whatever. But I know our government had to be part of whatever we've been doing. And I know surely, I doubt whether in Treasury there's anywhere where you have an allocation that says X amount should go to anybody.
Now, you spoke about how beautiful the game of football is, what it does for people, but if this has shown anything, football is a dangerous business. With no insinuations, of course. Were you ever put in a compromising position? Any other South Africans put in a compromising position?
I must say I was very fortunate during my time, and of course I had a term of 4 years, which was exciting. We were hosting the World Cup at the time, and everything was going smooth, and we had one of the best World Cups, as you might know, and I do not remember being compromised as a person. I always believe in walking the straight route, and that has been my philosophy. And once you walk on a straight route, whoever tries to come around the bend will find you far ahead.
Do you think FIFA needs a breath of fresh air, a change in leadership, some young blood?
Look, it's a logical thing to happen. There's no way that you'll have the same leadership all the time. You know, nature has it. People grow old and they'll go out of the system, and of course, the various federations will have to elect members who they believe will be able to take them forward. The issue here is, do you believe in those that are leading, old or new? And that's it. And the process of change will happen. Nobody will lead forever. Perhaps the biggest challenge that any form of leadership, if you overstay your say, there's always challenges that comes. It's a natural process. Whether you're doing good, from a public perspective, people always feel like that has been too much.
You've been in and out of the Zurich headquarters. You've interacted with the biggest people in FIFA, of course, with Sepp Blatter himself. Do you find that over the years it has become a dictatorship?
Look, I think Blatter is a very, very fortunate old man that I've interacted with. Let me tell you that. He's a good heart, and of course, a man who knows development. Let me tell you, this continent has benefited a lot since Blatter has been in office. We talk about the gold project that he has run, and every African country now would show you a great structure, even better than what governments can put through the gold project. And not only that, the 20 centers of hope that were created out of our World Cup. And do you know that our World Cup resulted with FIFA giving double the grants to Federation of almost 5 million, which was incredible. Look, we can't falter FIFA in terms of plowing back to football itself. Football has actually grown in such a way that there's no more a small country. Besides, precisely because money is invested back in terms of technical support, referees, coaches, and infrastructure. Better infrastructure are seen in football than perhaps even some of the government buildings in the continent because of football.
What does FIFA still need to do for this continent?
Well, the process continues. Once you set up the structures, you must empower people in terms of coaching. And that's why I'm telling you, the Cape Verde of this world will challenge any country. Lesotho can come and challenge you because they have what it takes in terms of human resources. Development, that's what FIFA is all about. And they really put their money where their mouth is.
Mr. Nematandani, thank you very much for speaking to us here on Game On. We certainly hope to hear more about whether FIFA will come forward and clear the name of the South African Football Association and yourself with those match-fixing allegations that still plague us from the 2010 World Cup.
Thank you very much.
Well, before we move on to other stories, I just want to have a listen in to what Walter Di Gregorio, the communications manager of FIFA, had to say about Blatter and, of course, the elections that will continue regardless of this investigation.
The president is not involved. Of course, he is the head of FIFA, but he's not involved in any. So how can you say, okay, he has to whatsoever step down? Here's the president. Here's the president. Here's the president. And in 2 days there are elections. If the 209 members association they will re-elect him, then he is the president for the next 4 years. The stress factor is a little bit higher today than it was yesterday. But, I mean, he's quite relaxed because he knows, and he knew it before, and he's confirmed once again today that he is not involved. He's not involved in that. All the rest, he's going to accept what will happen. And I'm sorry if I'm going to repeat myself, but it was FIFA, the 18th of November, who asked the General Attorney to open a case.
Black Leopards and Jomo Cosmos played to a goalless draw in their first National First Division playoff encounter at the Vaal University Stadium on Wednesday. The 0-0 draw worked for the home side as they still remain on top of the log. The result leaves Ezinkosi top of the playoffs log table with a win and a draw from 3 games. Lido Daduva remain second with the same number of points with an inferior goal difference. Morocco Swallows are a point back, having played a game less. Zeka Marks was left disappointed as he felt that his side deserved to go back to Limpopo with maximum points. Jomo Sono, on the other hand, refused to complain but was grateful for the point they took away from Black Leopards.
The elbows are flying and we weren't getting the protection, so it did affect us. First half we could have sealed it, we didn't, and then obviously second half Jomo had to come at us, and you know the result is it's not a fair result in my opinion, because we could have easily had won it first half, but you know it is what it is now.
We're still in it. We're happy with the point because they are a Hudu team. We're happy with the point. It's up to them how they play against Swallows. It's up to us how we play against Swallows.
Well, joining us in studio to move away from football a bit is Robin de Groot, who of course will be taking part in the South African Marathon Championships. Thank you very much for speaking to us here on Game On. It's your first time here and we're really, really honoured to have you in studio. Tell us a bit about your journey in cycling. Of course, you switched from road cycling to mountain biking after 2012, excuse me. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it was a change, complete change. I hadn't intended on competing professionally again. It was more just to continue keeping fit, and once I started mountain biking, the bug bit, and yeah, I've never looked back, so very happy.
You were part of the Rio Olympics team in 2012. Tell us a bit about that experience.
Yeah, that was a London Olympics that we went to.
Really looking forward to 2016.
For the road, and it was a fantastic experience. I don't think, you know, you can never really put words to an experience like that. It's totally humbling. You're in and amongst other sports disciplines, and yeah, it's just something that you carry with you forever.
How big was that transition for you?
It was, for me, a lot of people thought it would be quite a big transition, but I've had some really good mentors and people that I've trained with, and they really made making the jump quite an easier than I expected.
You took part in the Absa Cape Epic, and I understand that you got quite ill during and after that. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, we did the Absa Cape Epic alongside my teammate from Ascendus Health, Jenny Stennehaag. So during Epic, I felt that something wasn't right in terms of health, and yeah, it took a long time to kind of pinpoint with sports physicians exactly what was wrong, and they picked up a virus. And unfortunately, I've had to back off a little bit and rest and try to give my body some time to recover, but it's taken its toll and things haven't been ideal, so yeah.
How difficult is it to mentally come back from that, having been off the bike for so long?
Yeah, there is a mental aspect, and I do know that. I just try and stay positive and take every day as it comes. There's nothing I can do to change my situation. The things I do have control over, I try and control, and the things that I can't, I just have to accept and take every day as it comes. I must say, my sponsors from Ascendus Health and Lange Sports have been wonderful in terms of supporting me and showing some understanding. So yeah, I'm really grateful.
Well, you're two-time defending champion of the SA Marathon Champs. How have you been preparing for it, and what is it like, that pressure, you know, to just defend your title?
I'm not going to lie to you, my prep hasn't been ideal. I'm working with what I have every day. Some days are good, some days are bad. And I would love to defend my title. It's been an absolute honour to be the SA champ. I've always worn my jersey with pride, and I wouldn't like to lose it, but if I lose it to someone better than me on the day, then so be it.
How does your preparation regime work? What do you do every day?
A lot of training, a lot of lifestyle, sleep, eat, rest. It's a combination of things, and finding that balance. And yeah, at the moment I'm resting more than I'm training. Unfortunately, that's what I got to do, and I just got to hope that my body will carry me through the Marathon Champs, and I do the best that I can to defend.
How stiff is the competition in the Marathon Champs? Is there quite a big difference between sort of you elite cyclists and maybe some of the others that are still coming up?
I would say that the ladies mountain biking competition is pretty good. It's really healthy, and it's growing event for event. You see more and more faces. On the top level, yeah, they're huge competitors there. The standard's high, and I know I'm going to have to be good on the day to be able to defend my title.
Looking at women's cycling as a whole, we've spoken to Ashley Moolman, Cherise Stander, Lisa Oliver, quite a few other cyclists. Is it a growing sport?
Yeah, I would say there's been a huge kind of focus on the women's side of cycling. Unfortunately, we don't usually get enough exposure. But fortunately, what organisers are doing now is increasing the prize money. So that's one step forward. And yeah, we've got to be grateful for that and thank those that come on board to match prize money, and hopefully the rest will follow.
Just very quickly, because we are running out of time, do you have aspirations to compete in the Rio 2016 Olympics?
Not particularly. The reason being I'm cross-country marathon, and that's not an Olympic discipline. So for me to go for that this year, no, it's not something that's on the cards.
What are your goals?
My goals were all things for this current, the next few months. But I'm having to move my goals, reset my goals till later in the season, and just be patient. And I know I'll get through it, and I know that we'll be good later in the year for Ascendus Health.
Well, we wish you all the best, and we hope you have a speedy recovery. We will be tracking how well you're doing in your competitions. Thank you very much for visiting us on Game On this evening.
Thanks for having me.
While the Lions might be in full swing with the Super Rugby season, the team recently took time off to spread the game to those of disadvantage when they held a clinic for 30 youngsters. Former Springbok hero Chester Williams was the star attraction.
The Lions Rugby Union, who have their top team fighting for top honours in Super Rugby, recently took time off their busy schedule to give back and expose those from a disadvantaged background to the game that has brought South Africa to World Cups and years of success. Keeping a watchful eye over the young talent was former World Cup champion Chester Williams. The former Springbok put the kids through various different routines, which included ball handling, passing, learning how to sidestep, and other tools that could be important should the youngsters aspire to take up the game. While Chester and his team of Lions players were handling the clinic, the kids were also allowed to take pictures with rugby's biggest prize, the Webb Ellis Cup or the World Cup, something Williams knows all too well.
The one thing that stays in my memory for life will be when that final whistle went and I looked around the stadium and I saw people hugging each other, some were crying, some were embracing each other. No, whatever creed or culture you were, it was just amazing to see for the first time a rainbow nation of South Africa.
Is all about exposing youngsters to the game that they might not know. Chester Williams, however, is just the cherry on top. Pashka Mudlia for ANN7, Johannesburg.
Well, moving on back to football a bit, I'm joined by ladies from Amatax, of course, Coach Simpiwe Dludlu and Pearl Moswane. Thank you very much for speaking to us here on Game On this evening. Let's start with you. We've been in contact for quite a while. We've been wanting to get you in studio. Tell us a bit about the football team.
Well, the ladies are doing quite well. Top of the log, both in Sasol and in USA, so the club is very happy.
Obviously, the University of Pretoria is one of the institutions, one of the clubs that are taking women's football seriously.
Yep, absolutely.
Simply for you, you're a Banyana player. It's ingrained in you. Of course, you've grown up with football. How difficult was it to make the transition from player to coach?
I wouldn't say I've really made it completely 100% because I still get to put on my boots and train with the girls some of the days. But the transition was a difficult one. I remember the first year that I was coach hands-on. I hit a lot of walls, coaching girls that I played with that were my peers and getting instruction from me. It's like, excuse me, coach, you were once there. It was even difficult for them to say coach. I mean, I still let it go. It's coach Shorty or Shorty as long as there's a relationship between the two. But it was a difficult one, just the transition from being a player to being a coach that had to be respected and seen as a leader in the team.
Tell us a bit about the SASA League, how it works. Is it a provincial league? It's not a professional one, because that's really what we need, right?
No, it's an amateur one. Obviously, it runs through the 9 provinces, and provincially, it's in Gauteng, it's been divided into 2 streams. So we've got Stream A and Stream B, where there's 9 teams per stream. So yeah, it's a provincial league, and then at the end of the seasons, the teams that go on top of each province, they go and compete in the national playoffs of the Sasol League. And then the following season, it's back to the Sasol League again. So there hasn't been an improvement or another stage beyond Sasol.
Paul, what has been the aspirations for this team? Where do you want to see it go?
Well, we haven't actually won the league since our participation in 2004. So the ambition for this year is to win the league and go to the playoffs. Firstly, we're the defending USA champions, so we need to defend that and then go to the national championships and win that, because we also haven't won that as well. So win the 2 trophies, those are the major achievements that we're looking for this year.
Tell us a bit about the development structure. My director's screaming in my ear because we are running out of time, but tell us a little bit about, quickly, the development structure and how you find girls to play in the team.
Well, we have a satellite development program in Mamelodi. We have under 13s, 15s, and 17s that then feed through to a regional team. We have 2 teams in the regional league. Then from there, the girls that really show improvement get promoted to the senior Sasol team. And all of those that are in matric are then assisted to get into the university and play for the USA team.
For you, something I find so impressive, you have a UEFA B license, a KNVB license as well. We don't have many female coaches. Do you have aspirations of probably being one of the first South African-bred coaches to coach a national team?
You know, the biggest one for me is to be the head coach of the under-12 girls national team, because we start from under 17 and under 20, then banyana. For me, grassroots is what's important, and that's why as a young aspiring coach, I thought, let me get as much knowledge as I can, coach as much as I can to get the experience. But who knows, God puts you in places that you never imagined. So I'm just looking forward to making a difference in women's football. However, whichever way, God will just determine that.
You already are. Ladies, thank you very much for speaking to us here on Game On. We hope to come watch you play at some point and just get to know you a little bit more and just expose what you're doing for women's football in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you for hosting us.
Well, it's Justice 0, Sepp Blatter 1. We get used to the scenario as FIFA continues to be plagued by corruption and mafia-like behavior. World football needs a breath of fresh air if we are to see any change in how things are run. The 2010 FIFA World Cup has now been dragged through the mud with this investigation, and Blatter's name still remains untouched. How afraid can a combination of 200-some-odd members be afraid of one man? How much money and power can one man hold? Football will never truly be a power of change and hope as long as an 80-year-old man holds the most powerful position in the world. Things certainly need to change. Well, that's what's on my mind this evening. From me, Mahreen Chenya, and the Game On team, have a good night.